Caitlin, welcome to Serenity Therapy Center. It's great to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
Right. So we're going to talk about understanding Stockholm Syndrome. This is a concept that affects a lot of people, especially there are people like in bad relationships. I think you mentioned that one of your friends was in a bad relationship.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of talk about, what happens to people. So if you don't mind, please read out loud after understanding Stockholm Syndrome.
All right. For 6 days in August 1973, thieves Jan Erik Olsen and Clark Olofsson
It's close enough. Olsen's good enough, right?
held 4 Stockholm bank employees hostage at gunpoint in a vault. When the victims were released, their reaction shocked the world. They hugged and kissed their captor, declaring their loyalty even after kidnappers were carted off to jail. They insisted that their kidnappers should receive the lightest sentence possible and advocated for their release.
Yeah, so they advocated for their release. So let me ask you a question. If you were held against your will in a bank vault for 6 days, right? You're eating shitty pizza, you can't shower, guys with a bunch of guns are all around you. If you're finally free from that scenario, what would be a healthy reaction towards those people? What would be actually normal?
Hating them and wanting to get as far away from them as humanly possible.
Awesome answer. That'd be normal, right?
Yes.
So Stockholm Syndrome doesn't make much sense. Instead of them hating those people and saying, they ruined my life, I probably have P.T.S.D, now I'm stuck seeing Raj for 2 years, right? Instead of them saying that, what are they going to be saying? What? Advocating for their release and saying they should get a very light sentence? Okay, we're calling bullshit. Let's go on to the next paragraph if you don't mind.
Okay. People suffering from Stockholm Syndrome come to identify with and even care for their captors in a desperate attempt to make sense of their mistreatment. It occurs in most
Psychologically
traumatic situations, often hostage situations or kidnapping, and the effects usually do not end with the crisis and over.
That's terrible. Remember, this is the effects do not usually end when the crisis is over. Wow. Please continue.
In these cases, the victims continue to defend and care about their captors even after they escape captivity. Symptoms of Stockholm Syndrome have also been identified in the slave/master relationship, in battered spouse cases, in members of destructive cults, and in addiction.
So, remember back in the days of slavery, the people were called abolitionists? The word sound familiar to you? The abolitionists during the slave era?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were people that were actually against slavery, right? They wanted to abolish it, right? And they were really good Christian people. And they would actually have rallies and they would raise money and buy slaves their freedom. So back in the day, they were known as being these spiritual high ground people. But what do you think happened over time with the slave owners? How did they begin to feel about these abolitionists?
I'm assuming they started getting close to their captors.
Right, but we're getting to that next, so you're ahead of me, you're good. What happens is that the slave owners got really pissed off because they're realizing we got a really good hustle right now, right? We can mistreat people, get free work, and these abolitionists are ruining it. So here's what they did. They would bring a slave into a town square. And they bring him up to a podium, right? Usually it would be a house slave, a person that had a pretty good deal. The house slave lived in his master's basement. The field slave lived out in the fields, he had a pretty raw deal. So they asked the guy, okay, if you guys are so against slavery, right? Have about 100 people showing up for this rally. Let's ask a slave how he feels. They point out to the crowd, none of you guys ever owned a slave, never you guys ever been a slave, you know nothing about it. Let's ask an expert. Okay, Mr. Slave, how do you feel about slavery? And guess what? He would go up there and say, I love slavery. I love my master. I have a wonderful life. I get to wear his clothes. I have his last name. Please don't get rid of slavery. Where would I go? What would I do? Now, your first thought when you hear somebody saying that, you call, that's some bullshit. That doesn't make any sense, right? But think about it. The reason why is called internalizing his own oppression. If you get taken away from your family in shackles and chains, and someone says to you, you are now my property, if you actually realize what that means, you'll lose your fucking mind. And so what your mind does to change reality, it says, oh, being a slave isn't so bad. Maybe I'll have my freedom one day. Maybe I'll just, have a better life. And so the way of internalizing their own oppression is saying, where would I go? What would I do? Is that making sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pretty crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about the next paragraph, talking about the prisoner?
All right, the prisoner comes to truly believe that the captor is their friend, that he will not kill her, that in fact they can help each other get out of the mess. The people on the outside trying to rescue her seem dangerous and not her allies. Outsiders are going to harm the captor, who is now her friend. The fact that the hostage taker could care less about her and would kill her in an instant is lost in the process of self-delusion.
Isn't it amazing? When I do interventions, right, and someone comes to my office and I say, here's the deal. You're going to go to rehab today and no more heroin for you. They get really angry at me. You follow what I'm saying? I'm seen as the bad guy. Doesn't it blow your mind that I'm a bad person for telling this person to stop doing heroin? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, something that's ultimately killing them.
Right. So watch this. You ever seen that TV program called Jersey Shore from back in the day on MTV? It's called Jersey Shore. Remember who Sammy's sweetheart was? Mm-hmm. One of the characters. Remember her boyfriend was that guy named Ronnie, the juice-head gorilla? Right? Mm-hmm. And so Sammy and Ronnie were dating, right? The problem with Ronnie, though, he was cheating on her all the time, and he was drinking all the time. So at one point, Sammy's friends got together and wrote her a letter. The letter says, Dear Sammy, we love and care about you so much. Ronnie is an asshole. He is cheating on you, right? Please leave Ronnie and have a wonderful life. Now, knowing what you know about Stockholm Syndrome, though, what would have been a normal reaction for Sammy? What should Sammy have done when she received that letter from her friends?
The normal reaction?
Yeah, normal reaction.
You can't leave him.
Right? Get him out of the picture, leave immediately, or at least confront him and say, what's going on, Ronnie? Is this true? If it is, I'm going to kick you to the curb, right?
Yes.
But guess what actually happened?
She didn't believe her friends, or she was mad at her friends for even writing the
Both
letter.
are right. Yeah, she didn't believe her friends, and she was mad at her friends, and she began holding on to Ronnie even tighter. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I've seen it done a lot, though.
Right? And now you know why. That's Stockholm Syndrome. How about the next paragraph, if you don't mind?
All right. Many addicts identify with their drug of choice like an abused woman identifies with her abusive husband. She says, he beats me up, but I know he loves me. I know that things will change. It won't always be like this.
That's deep, isn't it? So I have a couple that came into my office, case about 5 years ago. Happened only one time. The guy's got 3 DUIs. He was on probation for his 3rd DUI. The wife had a black eye, and they have a 5-year-old kid together, right? So when they came into my office, he was pretty nervous because he's on probation. He doesn't want me to call his PO and get him into trouble, so he's being like really sheepish, like, oh boy, right? So I look at these people, and imagine if I would have said this, which I didn't do. Imagine if I said to this woman, your husband is a big fucking loser. He's got 3 DUIs. He hasn't worked in 4 years. You have a 5-year-old kid together, and he's still drinking. Grab your kid and run away from him as fast as possible, because if you don't, there's going to be a 400% higher chance your kid's going to be an alcoholic. Knowing what you know about Stockholm Syndrome, how would she have reacted to that?
She would have fought against it.
Right, exactly right. She's been angry at me. You're a horrible therapist. You're the worst one in the whole world. My husband is a wonderful guy. He's going to turn things around. You know, you'll see. You see my point? So here's what I said to her. I said to both of them, I said, there seems to be some concerns in your relationship. And they go, yeah. And I go to the wife, I go, how would a healthy relationship feel like for you? It's not even a loaded question. How would a healthy relationship feel like for you? And she says, well, it would feel like back when we were dating, you know? He actually cared about me. He asked me about my day. He asked me how I felt. Then I asked her this question, what concerns you about your relationship? You know, that's not even a loaded question either. And she goes, well, every time I come home, I'm always worried. Will I say the wrong thing? Will I upset him? It's like walking on eggshells. He'll get really angry and begin drinking, and I'll blame myself. Then I say this deep question. I say, if you had a magic wand and could wave it over your husband, what would be different about him? That's some deep shit, right? Mm-hmm. And she begins to tear up. And she goes, well, he'd stop drinking and go to AA. Now, I'm pretty fucking smart. I could have said all that shit to her, right? But it wouldn't have any kind of difference. The thing is that as she heard herself speak, she learns what she believes. The truth is in her heart. She knows what's best for her family and how to help her husband. My job is to draw that information out. Is that making sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Cool. How about the next slide?
Sadly, when family and friends tell the vulnerable victim, your heroin is killing you, your alcohol is killing you, can't you see what has happened to your life? The victim / addict, who you would expect to say, wow, that's true, I need to stop this shit, actually begins to embrace their captor / drug even tighter.
Whoa, that doesn't sound very good. Please continue.
Even though their drug of choice is destroying them, abusing them, and making them look stupid, they have so entrenched themselves and are in such denial that they begin to believe that the people talking bad about their drug of choice are actually the enemy.
Is it amazing? The person that's trying to help them becomes the enemy. And so when you try helping out your friend Mary, you tell Mary to stop dating that one guy, right? And you say that guy's a loser, he doesn't care about you. And the problem is that Mary's reaction is to hold on to him even tighter, right?
Yeah.
So from now on, when you want to try to help your friend out, what you want to say to her is, what concerns you about your relationship with Mike? You know, what would a healthy relationship feel like for you, Mary? And the big question, if you had a magic wand and could wave it over Mike, what would be different about him? Isn't that a better strategy?
Yeah, because they don't feel like you're talking at them.
Exactly right. So watch this. I had a couple came into my office one time, right? And it was a young man. He was 20 years old. He was a local MMA fighter. He had actually a title belt, and he had a really cute girlfriend. She was on a full ride scholarship to Wayne State University. She was really smart. She was even one of those ring card girls that would walk around with their ring card, and she was really sweet. Well, the kid's mother went to high school with me, right? So we'll call him Jeremy, right? So Jeremy's mom brought him to see me because he had his second DUI, and he already had 3 MIPs. So my job was to kind of meet with Jeremy, talk about how being sober is a good idea, and a complete education program with him, right? So I got Jeremy's mother's there, Jeremy's there, and his girlfriend's there, and we'll call her Michelle. So I begin talking. I say, Jeremy, your father's an alcoholic. You have 2 DUIs. You got all these MIPs. I'm really worried that you're an alcoholic, and we have some concerns about you and your court case. So Michelle jumps in and she goes, hey, I want to say something. I go, of course you can, Michelle. Please say whatever you want. I want you to feel safe in this room and have your voice heard. She says, Jeremy, if you drink again, I will leave you. I got a chill up my spine. Isn't that crazy? Jeremy, if you drink again, I will leave you. So you're pretty smart. What should Jeremy have said in my office with his mother there and his girlfriend there when she begins saying something that's so deep and powerful? What should Jeremy have said in my office?
That he will actually put effort in and stop drinking.
Exactly right. Or I'm going to go to some meetings. You're making a really good point. I care about you too. I'll make some changes, right? I'm almost never shocked. I was shocked. Jeremy's reaction blew my mind. He leaned towards me and goes, that bitch ain't going nowhere. I'm like, no, dude, she's right over there. Please don't do this. So Jeremy's mom jumps up out of her chair. She starts yelling at him. How dare you disrespect Michelle like that? She says to him, if you drink one more time, I'm throwing you out of the house. I'm not paying for your lawyer. So now I'm in damage control mode. I'm trying to cool down Jeremy, right? He's an MMA fighter. So Jeremy, dude, please cool out. As we're talking bad about alcohol, you seem to be getting very, very upset. It's not a personal attack. The more I talk bad about alcohol during that hour, the more he begins leaning like this towards me, getting all intimidating. You see what I'm saying? It's like talking about his best friend. He loved alcohol. It was the closest friend he had. So here's the story. I wish I could brag to you and say that my words were so magical that I stopped Jeremy from drinking. It didn't go down that way. Jeremy kept drinking. His mom threw him out of the house, didn't pay for his lawyer. He did 90 days in jail, right? So about 90 days out, he comes out of jail, and I get a phone call, and I know who it is, right? So I kind of play dumb. I go, who is this? He goes, it's Jeremy. I go, okay, what's going on? He goes, you got to help me out. I'm open-minded. How can I help you out? He goes, you got to get Michelle back. I'm like, okay, didn't you hear what she said in the office about the drinking thing and leaving you? He goes, yeah, I think that she was serious. I go, I thought she was pretty serious. He goes, well, you got to help me get her back. So, I'm always a compromiser. I think to myself, how can I make this work? So I say, okay, I'll tell you what. If you go to 30 AA meetings in 30 days, I'll call Michelle and make arrangements for you guys to come into my office. He goes, I'm not going to that bullshit AA. I go, then you don't want Michelle. Click. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Alcohol was more important than his girlfriend, more important than his mother, right? It's called a Stockholm syndrome. But the last paragraph, if you don't mind.
When we point out that alcohol or drugs are holding you hostage and preventing you from reaching your full potential, please understand it is not a personal attack.
No, it's not. It's not a personal attack, Jeremy. Chill out, right?
We are only pointing out the facts and the reality of your current condition. If we hold up a mirror to your present situation and all you see is ugly, it's not the fault of the mirror.
Wow, that's powerful, right?
The mirror is only a reflection of what is real. Please see the drugs for what they are, the enemy. Please see sobriety for what it is, freedom.
Yeah, so if we hold the mirror to your present situation and all you see is ugly, it's not the fault of the mirror. The mirror is only a reflection of what is real. Please see the drugs for what they are, the enemy. and please see sobriety for what it is, freedom. And your friend Mary's got both going on, right?
Yes.
Now you know how to help her better.
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Caitlin. You're awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.